Okay, now that we have our screens taped up and ready to go, let's talk about our production area and setting up our press. First of all, I want to point out our Riley Hopkins half-rack screen cart over there. We have everything that we need for our job on the cart so we can have easy access to it and we don't have to walk around the shop looking for it. Let's talk about the press and getting this set up. A good screen printing press can last a printer a long time. In fact, the Riley Hopkins presses we're using today are the same type of presses I learned on over 20 years ago. Ryonet has since acquired Riley Hopkins and makes all these presses right here in Vancouver, Washington, USA. On a screen printing press, one of the most important features on the press is the print head. This is where it holds the screen. First, let's talk about the screen clamp, which is typically located in the rear, but sometimes on the side. Each screen clamp has the ability to raise and lower the off contact or the height of the screen above the printing platen, as well as a tilt function. These ensure an even print. To set off contact, clamp the screen into the press. The easiest way to set off contact is to put a shim plate between the platen and the screen. Typically, off contact is set between 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch, which is how thick your plate should be. Wood, aluminum, or plastic work good for this. You don't want to use a warped plate, however. On the back of your print head, loosen up all the tilt and off contact bolts so the screen can move freely. Also, ensure the press is nestled all the way into the registration gate below. Then let the screen level out naturally on the off contact plate. Once aligned, tighten up all your registration bolts. Remove the plate and put the screen back down. You should see an even space between your screen and your platen. To ensure off contact stays intact during the job, sometimes it's helpful to put a shim on the end of the screen or the platen. A washer or a quarter works great for this. A standard screen press will only have a print clamp to dial in registration, meaning you have to loosen the registration, kind of dial in the screen, and then tighten it back up. More advanced presses have micro joystick registration, which allow you to dial in the press while the screen's clamped in. There are two types of micro registration: XY, which allows you to move the screen in exact XY axis, and Joystick, which allows you to move the screen by hand with 360-degree range of motion. The XY is more exact, while the Joystick gives you more flexibility. Before we start registering, we want to make sure that all of our micros or joysticks are set to the center or 0 point. This allows us for the most motion forward, backwards, left to right before actually setting up the job and makes setup a lot easier. In order to ensure that multiple color prints register print after print, you need to ensure that the print head is aligned with the print arms of the press. This happens at the same place on each pallet for multiple color lineup. On a manual press, the screen comes down into a registration gate. You want to ensure that your off contact and tilt are set up in a way that nothing prevents the head from nesting into the gate. Next, let's move on out to the printing platens of your press. Also called pallets, this is your printing surface. The key here is to ensure that they're flat, and if you have a multiple station press, each platen is the same distance from the print head gate. Wood platens like you see here have been around forever and work well, but will warp over time. Thus, many printers have decided to upgrade to aluminum platens. For consistency, take a measuring tape or laser guide and ensure that the press is set up with each of the platens the same distance from the reg gate. The next thing we want to do is add platen tape to your platens. Platen tape protects the platen from adhesive, chemicals, and even heat, and also allows you to draw and create marks on them. I'm using 18-inch platen tape on our standard 16 by 18 platen with the neck cut out. Starting with a clean platen, I apply the platen tape at the end and then roll it over the platen. Then I cut the tape with a sharp razor knife. Then I use the tape roll itself to apply the tape down to the platen, which avoids any wrinkles and bubbles. You can either use your knife to cut the tape close to the edge or wrap the tape around the edge. I prefer to cut it close. Once applied, we recommend drawing a center line down the middle of the platen with a few neck marks about 1 inch apart on the top of the platen. This can be done easily with a T-square and a Sharpie. As we finalize setting up our production area, we want to make sure that our press cart is once again in reach, very close by our production press. We want to move our flash dryer, if we are going to be flashing, which in this case we are for a multiple color job, to the station directly right or left of our printing station. So if I'm printing here, I'm going to be rotating the pallets that way, and I'm going to be flashing over there. Also, we want our conveyor dryer to be rather close. So if I'm printing here, I'm stepping out, putting the shirts on the conveyor dryer right there. Put my shirts right behind me so I can easily grab them, load them onto the press, flash them, take them off, and then onto the dryer.